All right, what is going on? Welcome back to Iconic America Unplugged, coming to you live, or recorded, from New York City, lockdown New York City. And I got my brother in arms with me from across the pond, my brother, my dude right here, Mr. Mark Devlin. If you don't know who Mark Devlin is, you're about to find out. And if you do know, oh, hail the Ayatollah of rock and roller, the man himself, man. I'm very, very happy to have you. I had you over at Shoot the Moon. You were gracious enough to come down and give a talk. You've been on the fringe many, many times. I feel like I can call you a friend. It is an honor for me to have you here. I've been wanting to get you on. And, our lives, you're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. But now with all this going on, I've been able to have you on the fringe and have you here, which is fantastic. If you're going to look for a silver lining, this is it. I got to have Mark Devlin on America Unplugged. Welcome to your first appearance here on America Unplugged, and welcome to Iconic for the very first time. This is Mark Devlin. How you doing, sir?
Well, thank you, brother. And it's taken enforced house arrest for us to be able to do 2 shows in 2 weeks. It would never have happened otherwise.
Absolutely.
This madness situation that we find ourselves in. So, yeah, I linked with you for the first time at Shoot the Moon NYC in October. Right. We said on the show we did last week that this was exactly the same time as Event 201 was going down with Bill Gates and his mates just across town there.
Give somebody a little bit of background. Hold on to that thought just to give these people a little bit of background. Shoot the Moon, because I really haven't talked about it here, is a conference we put together. It was born in Mark's brain, and he implanted it in mine, and it actually happened as a result. So we did that in October of 2019 right here in New York City, not far away from where Event 201 was taking place. Of course, you and I and the rest of the participants had no idea what was going on, but it happened. So that's what we're referring to. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, we bloody know about it now, don't we? So the whole thing was getting cooked up just across town there from where we were. And we were due to meet again at the end of this month because there was a conference called Seed 4, known as Seed for Growth, which was taking place at Skatopia down there in Ohio. It was near to Athens, Ohio. A guy called Brandon Martin had put that whole thing together. Mark Passio was going to be speaking. I was going to be coming over with Nathan Redette from the UK. Sean McCann was going to be there. That's not happening now either. But the original plan was I was going to pass through New York City and hook up with you because we didn't really get to hang out and socialise and speak properly because of everything that was going on with the conference. So the plan was to do that at the end of this month. But we were saying last week we're going to make that happen before the end of 2020, right? Even if it has to be November, we're going to make this happen.
Right. It's happening without a doubt. It's going to happen. And, they are, quote unquote, rolling back some of the – and we're going to talk about a variety of things here with Mark. Musical Truth is what Mark does, 2 books, if you guys aren't familiar. And we'll get into a bit of that. There you go. Look at that. Fantastic stuff. And you can check out Mark Devlin's podcast, which is one of my favorites. And if you Google the name Mark Devlin, there you go. Look at that. If you Google Mark Devlin, everything will come up. So just go ahead and do that. Listen to Good Vibrations. It's a great podcast, and his books are great. He has a fiction book. We got into that on my last. There you go. On my last episode of The Infinite Fringe, so you can go check it. Loads of stuff. So we're gonna touch a little bit of everything here, but they're rolling back certain things supposedly, Mark. And they're giving us back some of our freedoms. Now, we knew going into this, just like 9/11 was pivotal in my quote unquote awakening, for lack of a better term. And when 9/11 happened, they took away, they took away a ton of freedoms that we never got back, and that's just what's going to happen here, pretty much. They're going to give some stuff back, but not everything. But anyway, what's going on your end, Boris Johnson? We were doing a little bit of a talk about that, so just give us a little bit of a lowdown on it.
Yeah, so the word from the UK is that Boris Johnson is due to make an announcement on Sunday, which will be the 10th of May. And word is he's going to roll back some of the restrictions and give us back some of our freedoms. Of course, in reality, no man or woman can take away your natural-born freedoms from you. And any claim to do so is a fallacy. It's erroneous in nature. It can't happen. But nevertheless, people are living under mind control, and people believe that governments have the right to tell us what we can and can't do and to restrict our freedoms. So when you frame it that way, Boris, our overlord, our slave master, is going to give us permission to do certain things from Monday, so the press speculates. And this is going to include things like being able to go out for a picnic with your family. Imagine that. Permission from your owners to go out with your own family and have a picnic. So you're going to be able to do things like go on the common, go in the park. They might even let you on the beaches. We're going to have things like garden centres are going to fully open. They're talking about opening pub beer gardens. You can't go in the pub. You have to sit outside, but it's better than nothing, right? And you have to order your drinks via a phone app.
Incredible.
And have them brought to your table. So I'm a bit stuffed with this, because I won't be ordering Jack with that. So I'm going to have to go to the pub with somebody that owns a smartphone, because it's not safe otherwise, Billy. You know, otherwise it's everywhere. You know, it will go up your nostrils if you walk in that pub. So Absolutely. These are the measures that are said to be getting rolled out from Monday. The interesting thing is, I thought I would just look at the weather forecast for next week, just purely out of curiosity. Would you believe we've had about 7 weeks of beautiful, glorious, warm, sunny weather. Spring came early this year. It's been beautiful to be outside. I've been going out every day for as long as possible. On Sunday, the temperatures are taking a dip from about 23 down to 13, and it's going to be cold, grey and rainy. And it's going to be even colder, greyer and rainier on Monday, the day from which we're told we can have some of these freedoms back. Now, we know weather can be manipulated, and this strikes me as morbid mockery of the masses by, again, the control system, because they do like to do this and play tricks with us and play mind control games with us. And really, everything we're experiencing at the moment is mind control. There are organisations that specialise in working out how the human psyche operates and predicting what the response is going to be from large numbers of people given certain circumstances. And you can bet, with the current narrative that we have, there have been anthropologists, social scientists, psychologists that have been sitting around in conferences plotting this whole thing, coming up with imaginary scenarios and working out how they feel large numbers of people are going to respond to it. And when they see all these people wearing masks, fearful of catching something which so many medical professionals tell us can't be airborne and contagious and pass from one person to another anyway. And then they look at all the ridiculous behaviours people are employing in the supermarkets, standing behind bits of tape, going one way around the store, standing behind arrows, going in one door and out of another, people shouting at other people if they walk through the wrong door or step 2 inches over the bit of tape. You know, they must be absolutely laughing themselves. Whether it's the Tavistock Institute or whether it's any of these other social engineering think tanks that put this whole thing together, it's probably a collaboration of all of them. I'm sure Oxford and Cambridge universities would have had a hand in it. But you can bet they're observing the behaviour of large numbers of people, the vast majority of the population, and they must be slapping each other on the back and congratulating each other on a job well done, because I'm sure most people are behaving exactly as they knew they would. That's mind control.
No, I think you're absolutely right, man. And they didn't have to pick up a gun to do it. You know, they didn't have to, we have been, me included, thinking of the martial law scenario. And this is martial law here in the United States in some ways. It's not hard martial law, but it's soft martial law, and martial law is martial law nonetheless, right?
That's right.
So
it is.
Right. So that it does exist, but they got us to go into our homes and lock ourselves up purely by the mind, Mark.
You know the irony of today?
What's up?
Here in England, today has been designated a bank holiday. That's a public holiday, where ordinarily people take time off from their jobs, office jobs, bank jobs. That's why it's called a bank holiday. And normally in May, we have it on the first Monday in May. It's called May Day. It's actually tied in with Beltane and these pagan fertility rituals connected to early May, going back to ancient times. But this year, they've changed it from the Monday and they've switched it out to the Friday. And the reason is it's designed to commemorate the 75th anniversary of VE Day, which stands for Victory Europe. And this is the end of the Second World War, when the Allies are said to have, been victorious against Nazi Germany, and they put that fascist tyranny down. And it was all about Vera Lynn and, Winston Churchill and all these British icons, and just a celebration of everything that it is to be British, and that wartime blitz spirit, the Dunkirk spirit, so-called. And so they've tried to coerce people into having parties at their house. Can't go out, mind, because of it's everywhere. So you have to stay in your house or stay in your garden. You can't have your neighbours round, mind, only your family that you live with, But everyone's been coerced into celebrating what it is to be British, waving Union Jack flags and playing wartime songs and having little sing-alongs together. What's incredible about it is this event is supposed to commemorate the putting down of fascist tyranny at a time when people are being kept in their houses under fascist tyranny. You couldn't make it up. And you don't have to.
You don't have to, absolutely.
It's just it's fascist tyranny with a new cloak, with a new label, with a new name. And it's been done very cleverly by mind control, by coercion, by psychological manipulation. So the vast majority of people don't even realise that they're being enslaved. They don't even realise they're having their rights taken away, because they probably didn't even realise they have these rights in the first place. They don't equate the current situation with having their freedoms taken away. They equate it with staying safe, them being kept safe, because the government cares about them so much. They're just really nice people. That's why they go into politics. They just want to help people. And that is the way the vast majority are thinking. So they wouldn't imagine that this equates to martial law. You suggest this is house arrest, and they'll think you're crazy, because as far as they're concerned, Boris Johnson and his mates are just keeping us all safe. And the incredible thing is, I follow certain social media chat threads, mainly friends of my wife. She'd hate me, but she can't hear. So I look at what friends of my wife are saying, okay? And it's just mind-blowing. It's just dumbfounding. You can read some of these threads on Facebook, and people are saying, even when the government says it's safe to go out, I'm still not going to go out yet. Yeah. I'm still too afraid. I'm going to stay in my house. I'm not going back to work yet. The government should not be lifting these restrictions yet, because it's not safe. This virus, it's everywhere. And, we shouldn't even be thinking about coming out of lockdown now. And they're calling the likes of us that want to end lockdown, because we realise it's all based on lies and deception, as idiots, morons, crazy, irresponsible people, when the opposite is actually the case. It's another 180-degree satanic inversion. These people are the problem, because these people and their meek compliance and acquiescence are affecting the rights and freedoms of those of us that respect these things and can see them for what they are. So they're the COVID-idiots. They're the dangerous ones. They're the ones causing harm by not taking personal responsibility to look at truth and do some goddamn research and find out what's really going on here, and not just taking the government and the BBC at their word. These are liars. We know they're liars. And people can't see this. If this event doesn't wake large numbers of people up, nothing ever could.
Well, Mark, it will. It has. It has.
It started.
It's waking people up. And it's a domino effect. Even if it's a small amount of people that are woken up, people will continue to wake up as a result of this. It happened in 9/11. It's going to happen here, guaranteed. And I know they planned for this. They war gamed this, and they knew that inevitably people were going to wake up as a result of it. You said something that I touch on quite often, and that's the aspect of hard and soft slavery. They got these
people. You're doing
the
Baphomet there for me.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now I'm done. Now I'm a shill. This is going to get out. Yeah. Everybody's going to see it, and I'm a Satan worshiper as a result. Sorry. But you're good, man. And it's a very, very, very significant thing You see, I can't stop. It's incredible.
I spot these things all the time.
You don't want to see me. I'm like all the time. But anyway, it's a very, very significant thing because it's the only way they're going to they'll never succeed, right? I've come to this conclusion that they will never succeed, and they know this. So if they do hard slavery, if they let you know that you are a slave, they will lose quicker. All right, because there's no way around that. Once people know that they're slaves, they fight back. You can map this out throughout history, current day. What you need to do is have them believe that they're free. So many people, like you said, I have friends. I don't need to go to my wife. I have my own friends that think the way you described. Can't go outside. People are going to die. I go for jogs. What are you doing going for jogs? What is wrong with you? Do you not care about your family?
Unbelievable.
And I'll go a little bit further. These people, and I get it. I understand. Okay, I do. I understand. They're not, exposed to the research that we're exposed to. They're not, it's a different deal. But even by official numbers, even by the CDC and the government numbers, something doesn't add up. So even by those numbers, we should start to think, even if we're not in the alternative media, even if we're not exposed to this information, something's off here. And there's a lot of people that are doing that. And that's the silver lining. I mean, okay, way more people are under the mind control than those that have broken off. But we have recruited some people. And once we do, we don't give them back. There's very little turnaround on our end. You know what I mean? We're not going back there after we've seen what we've seen. You can't unsee it. Go ahead, Mark. And then I want to get into some of your books and we'll get into some music. Give me some thoughts.
I'm really losing patience and sympathy for people who still refuse to see the truth of what's going on here, who still cling to official government narratives when it's so blatantly obvious that something isn't right here. The government is not keeping us safe. They've not introduced these lockdown measures to protect us from harm. The lockdowns, anyone can see this, and people have personal stories of their own to offer, are doing more harm than good. They've killed more people than allegedly the virus has. Who can't see this? And really there's no excuse for anyone to say that they don't understand all this stuff. If people haven't figured out by now that the mainstream media lie to you all the time, we can cite so many examples of this, why would you give them a second chance? If a guy knocks on your door and he says, I've got a brilliant investment opportunity for you. You just got to give me £1,000 cash. I'm going to invest the money. You're going to make a ton back. I'll be back next week and I'll tell you more. So you give the guy £1,000. He goes off. You never see him again. But 6 months later, he knocks on your door again and he says, I've got a brilliant investment opportunity for you. Give me £1,000 and you can make a ton of money. Are you going to go, okay, here's £1,000? Or are you going to go, I remember you. You scammed me last time. You think I'm going to give you a second chance? And yet people do this with the government and the media all the time. And there's now so much alternative information around. The internet is there and everyone has access to it. And all the information that I've come across that has enabled me to do my research and write these big-ass books, all that information came from researching on the internet. So I can do this research, you can, and we have, which means anybody else can. And not only that, but do you not think most people now know someone, whether it's that crazy guy at work, whether it's that mad uncle, whether it's a cousin, somebody in their circle of friends and family that talks about conspiracy and alternative issues. Somebody must at some point in their lives have said, this isn't right, this story doesn't stack up, the government's lying to you about this. And people just willfully reject that. And this is why I'm losing patience with people, because, as I said earlier, it's their refusal to accept truth and take personal responsibility which is threatening the freedoms of the rest of us. And they have no right to stay in that state of ignorance and do that to us. Having said that, I don't want to just dwell on the negative aspects of this, as I said to you off air. I'm all about staying optimistic. I'm all about looking at glimmers of hope and optimism. And it is clear that we have won over many people. It's not happened as quickly as I would like, but I'm a very impatient person. One of the life lessons that I incarnated into this place to learn was patience. I've been learning it all my life. But there are indicators that people are coming over on the side of truth. We're slowly winning the numbers. I hope that continues to happen. I hope it reaches an exponential curve where there's just no going back. And as you said, when people come over on the side of truth, you ain't never going back into the matrix. You can't, even if you wanted to. Right. So we've got to hope that that process can continue. And I have drawn a lot of optimism from the last 6 or 7 weeks when we've all been under house arrest, just from the sheer ton of correspondence that I've got from people. It takes me most of each day now to go through my emails out of courtesy to people because I like to give them a response. And people are saying to me, I've seen your videos on YouTube, I've heard you on this podcast, and thank you for articulating exactly how we feel about things. Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for pointing me in the direction of this information or this researcher's work. Literally, I'm getting thousands of emails every week now. And I know from the last 10 years of work that I've put in, starting with this book and everything else I've done since, that I have personally got through to certainly tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people. And I know this because they've written to tell me so. They very graciously got in touch and said it was your work that changed my view of the world. And that's what it was like for me. Back in 2010, it was initially the work of David Icke and then other researchers that got me on the path to what I'm doing now. And if I'd sat on my arse back in 2010 and thought, I'm going to absorb this information, but I'm not going to go public with it because I don't want to stick my head above the parapet like that, then there are potentially hundreds of thousands of people in the world that would still be walking around in a mind-controlled daze because they wouldn't have had access to truth through the work that I've put out. And I'm not saying that to blow my own trumpet. I'm not saying that out of ego. I'm not saying that to try and make myself sound like any kind of guru or prophet or wonderful guy. There's nothing special about me. I'm just an ordinary guy, and this is the point. So if I can reach that number of people, and I have, anyone can do this. And if every single person that I've touched and reached with my work would speak to just one other person in their circle of family and friends and try to engage them on the path of truth, just imagine how quickly and exponentially that growth could occur. So this is the process we need to happen. So everyone who realizes that we're being lied to monumentally with this whole C-word narrative, and everyone that realizes that there are ulterior motives at play here, and this whole thing is a smokescreen for all kinds of other things that they want to slip in under the radar, everyone that realizes this needs to make a point of getting through to anyone that they can and getting them to see things from this perspective. And if we all put in the work and we all take that responsibility upon ourselves, we might just turn this situation around. And instead of being humanity's worst dystopian nightmare, it could be our greatest moment. I'm looking at 2020 at the moment, and it looks like a piece of crap. It's like the whole year is a write-off. But it's possible we could get to December this year and look back on it and think 2020 was humanity's greatest achievement. It could go that way.
I believe we're going to finish strong. I really do. I believe we're going to finish strong as individuals and as a community. I really do. I really do. And I'm going to stick by that. I said that at the beginning of 2020. It's going to be a big year. I had no idea how big and what was going to go down. I had zero idea about any of this. OK, even while it was happening in January in China and Wuhan.
Whoever would have imagined that it would go so far? I certainly didn't.
I was saying it right here. I was like, hey, listen, let's calm down. Let's relax. OK, let's see what this is about. It's no big deal. OK, let's relax. Now we're on lockdown. So I had no idea. But we are going to finish strong. I really believe that. I know that. I know that to be a fact. And everybody else needs to know that, too. And as soon as everyone else knows that, we'll be better off. And it'll happen as a result. It really will. Mr. Devlin, I do want to get into some of the music because you know how much I love music, right? And music has gotten me through so much of my life. Not that it's gotten me through, but it's been a companion. Like if you see me walking down the street, you'll typically see me with a pair of these, right? I have one of these on, walking down the street. You're going to call on me. I'm not going to hear you because I'm walking. Maybe I'm bopping my head to something. Right. I'm gone. You know, I can, when I'm jogging, I got these on. I could jog for hours. I take them off. I get tired very quickly. You know, there's a thing there. There's a magic about music. It's so beautiful, and some of it has been co-opted, which you've pointed out. But I do want to talk about I do want to talk a little bit about that, but I do want to get into some music that maybe we can offer up to people while they're on lockdown that they may want to listen to. Take the floor, sir.
Sure. Well, I'll start off with music that I listen to when I'm peed off. Do we swear on this? Can we be explicit?
You can do as you will, sir. You can say whatever it is you want to say.
All right. So music to listen to when you're pissed off. I'll cover that first. So anything by Morrissey or the Smiths, really. But in particular, the Smiths were around in the 80s when I was at school, and they were loved by the students of the time because they just articulated all that angst and all that pent-up frustration that teenagers have, at their elders and the establishment. But a couple of Morrissey songs that really are great to play on a day when you're pissed off and you're despairing, because they help you. I mean, this is the thing. It helps me. If I'm having a bad day, I like to listen to music made by an artist who's articulating exactly how I feel at that point, because it just seems to help you through. It's like somebody else understands. So Morrissey, Every Day is Like Sunday, is one that I've been playing a lot in recent weeks, because he's talking about this dismal, turgid, boring seaside town where nothing ever happens and every day's the same. Well, that's kind of a bit like life under house arrest, isn't it? Because every day is like Sunday now. So that's a great one to play. And also Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now by the Smiths, the lyrics to that. Then a couple of other tracks that are great when you're pissed off are from Eminem's first album. I only really liked Eminem's first album. Any material after that I just switched off. But he's got a track called If I Had, and another one called Rock Bottom, which has a Janis Joplin song.
I love Rock Bottom.
So if people want to get the lyrics to that, do a lyric search for If I Had and Rock Bottom by Eminem, and get those tracks on YouTube on a day when you're pissed off, and you'll find it articulates how you're feeling like nothing else. That having been said, let's move on to uplifting, positive music. The stuff that I'm all about right now is soulful, uplifting house music. I've always loved it, actually, but as a DJ, I was always known for playing urban music, so it was hip-hop and R&B, primarily. But mainstream hip-hop and R&B went down the shitter about 20 years ago, in my view. And every year since, it's just degraded and got more and more debased. So it's just straight toxic mind control garbage now. And I really don't mess with it anymore, not the mainstream stuff. So I'm all about soulful house. That's what I play on my weekly FM radio show called The Sound of Now. I find this music to be so inspirational, so uplifting, so good for the spirit. A lot of it comes out of the gospel tradition in black music, and you have gospel influences going into the house music, and you can just feel the liveliness of the music coming through in the vocal style and the production style. It's very happy, bright, uplifting music. I play 2 hours of it on my radio show every week, and if people aren't familiar with that genre, they might want to listen to some of my previous shows, because it really is music for these times. Every Saturday since we've been on lockdown, I've concentrated on playing bright, hopeful, uplifting, feel-good music. I'll also say that a while back I did a problem-solution edition of my Sound of Freedom podcast. This is conscious, meaningful music. So the first half was addressing all the problems that we have in the world, all the stuff we're familiar with, the conspiracy culture stuff. But part 2 was solutions. And this was, again, bright, uplifting music, not in a house music style, but different styles. So some of the tracks I included on that, I'm just looking at the playlist. Sonny Green, UK rapper, SGB, When Words Fail, Music Speaks. Diesel Automatic, awesome rapper out of Europe. He's got a track called The Sound of Freedom that inspired the whole name of the show. India Ari, I Am Light, beautiful soulful track. Jill Scott, I Am Blessed, fantastic track. Dead Prez, The Awakening, and also Learning, Growing, Changing, from one of their recent albums. Dead Prez, very conscious hip-hop act. John Legend and The Roots, Wake Up Everybody, covering Harold Melvin. Robert Glasper Experiment, I Stand Alone, featuring Common, amazing track. And one other one that I'll throw in there, which I included on an edition of The Sound of Freedom recently, George Harrison. He had a solo track called All Things Must Pass. And George Harrison, although there's lots you can say about the Beatles and their connections and what they were involved with, but George was always known as the spiritual Beatle. And a lot of his solo music is incredibly powerful, as is John Lennon's. But he's got a track called All Things Must Pass. And he's talking about everything in existence, in creation. It passes, it goes, our lives, anything you can think of, any kind of situation. So that means the situation we're in right now will pass. We will come through this. And there will be a time where we can look back on 2020 and reflect on how we handled this situation.
Very good. Very good. I'm going to make sure to go back and listen. I mean, I know a lot of them, but Diesel Automatic, I've never been able to really find for some reason. You can find them on YouTube, but I'm trying to get them on like Apple or something like that, Apple Music, just to take with me. But I should find a different way to pirate my music.
SoundCloud.
Right. And I'm fairly new to SoundCloud. All right. So let me give you some of mine. Right, just because I was forget that. I'm going to edit that out. I've been writing down exactly what, whenever you came up with an artist, it's like, oh, that's my favorite track about this artist. So The Smiths, right? The Night Has Opened My Eyes. Love that freaking track. It's so gorgeous. You can just sit back and listen and chill out. The moon is out and you just chill. It's a beautiful, beautiful track. Eminem. I'm like you. I could listen to the second album, select tracks off the third album, and then I just faded. I didn't. But the first album is fantastic.
And Stan is another great track as well.
Stan is very good. Yeah. So on the second album now, the second official album, quote unquote. But you said my Rock Bottom. That's my favorite track. My second favorite track is Mushrooms because it's just
hilarious.
Exactly. So it's really funny, very good. So house music. I don't really listen to house, once in a blue, but I think this qualifies. I used to work at the Gap in the World Trade Center a year before it went down. And I had a manager there. His name was Derek. We used to do overnighters, meaning, all night stacking the clothes and doing whatever we needed to do. And he used to play all types of music. He was gay, and they loved house music back in the day, and
very
just
much a New York thing,
right? Blasting it throughout the whole store. And I would ask him, I'm like, hey, what's this? What's that? Because I didn't know there was one track, and I still listen to it today, in particular when I'm running, because it's just fantastic. It's by an artist called Alternate. You're Free. Free is the name of the track.
Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful song! And I remember as soon as that song came on, I got a bit more productive. That he's my favorite manager I've ever had in all time. And unfortunately, I've lost contact with him. But I'm going to try to reconnect with him somehow. He was just a fantastic dude. Got a couple more that I want to give out. Slave Mill by Damian Marley. Are you familiar?
I know a lot of Damian Marley tracks. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one.
All right. I would ask everybody to go look up the Tiny Desk concert that he did. It's the first track he plays. And it's a very different version from the album version. But it's the Tiny Desk version that's beautiful. And it talks about the day-to-day grind, which we're eager to go back to right now, which is ironic. Because I would sit there and say, look at where we're living. Look at what we're doing. We're in this hamster wheel. And now people are dying to go back to the hamster wheel.
That's right.
It's incredible what they've been able to do to us. But this song details that hamster wheel very well, and it's a gorgeous track. What else we got? Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth by the Jizza, Liquid Swords, must listen. Hey, you did a Beatle, so I'll do a Beatle. Instant Karma, right?
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic, gorgeous, gorgeous track by John Lennon.
Instant Karma for Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci. That'd be a nice thought, wouldn't it?
For all of them, for Bill Gates, who's become the de facto ruler of the world, Anthony Fauci, who is an obvious piece of crap, Donald Trump, and everybody else throughout the world. Instant karma for you. It's coming without a doubt. Mark,
karma. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. We got to have you here more often. We got to figure something out, right?
Thanks,
and have you on.
When we're
talk
all
about
living freely, things will be so much easier.
It'd be a beautiful thing, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. You just got to keep looking down that road because it's there. I see the light. That's Mark Devlin, tell everybody where they can find you and everything you're doing. Go ahead, man.
All right, so I'm on YouTube as Mark Devlin TV. and I put up a whole bunch of my public talks and lectures, at least back in the days when I was able to go out and do public talks and lectures. I do a video once a week as well, just updating people with my thoughts and reflections on the current situation, and there's all my radio shows and interviews up on there. So that's Mark Devlin TV on YouTube. My main website is markdevlin.co.uk. You can get my books on Amazon. If you're in the UK, I can mail out signed copies of the books, but mail is only going within the UK right now. So if you're in America or anywhere else, you can get my books on Amazon. There's Musical Truth Volume 1, Musical Truth Volume 2, and the new novel, which I chatted with Billy Ray about on the Infinite Fringe last week, The Cause and the Cure. So you can just look for me on Amazon as Mark Devlin and Musical Truth. You'll find my books there. That's all my research, everything that I've come to comprehend about the true nature of the corporate music industry is in those books. And other than that, I've got a Spreaker page, which is where all my audio podcasts and stuff reside. So just look for Mark Devlin on Spreaker to find that.
Absolutely fantastic. I got one more before we get out of here. Leonard Skinner, Simple Man. I wish I wrote that song. And if I didn't, since I didn't, I want my kids to hear it and take lessons from it, because it's the way to live. And it's such a beautiful song. Love that. And I want one more thing from you before we fade off into the next segment.
Let me throw one more track in. Let me throw one
Absolutely.
more tune, because I just
Come
thought
on,
of it. John Farnham, You're the Voice.
You're the Voice.
Need to get the lyrics to that track. Do a lyric search for John Farnham, You're the Voice. It's not so much the song, because the song is a bit of a cheesy sort of 80s power pop thing, but the sentiments in the lyrics really speak to these times. That's a great track for now.
I'll definitely listen to it as soon as we get off of here. I want you to do one more thing for me, though.
What's that?
I want you to go ahead and show us how this virus operates. You've been doing it. You do it on your videos. You've done it here. Just fade us out with that, please.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's coming down the microphone. It's going to come out your end. It's everywhere.
Cheers.
It's everywhere. It's coming through the letterbox.
Oh, my gosh.